A little while ago, I got my newest quarterly drop from Field Notes. For a long time, I've kind of looked at Field Notes and I've had kind of the cheaper alternative, but I never invested in the actual quarterly year-long subscription. And so this was my first at doing this. And it's interesting because the very first drop that I got has some unique offerings. So they're very unlike kind of what I had normally observed from Field Notes. They kind of have that typical small pocket notebook, and then inside of there had a dot grid, which was my preference, and you can kind of do whatever you wanted to do in here. But in this particular drop, they got very specific in sort of the type of notebooks that they gave me, and so that constrained me a little bit. And my first reaction was sort of, wow, that's kind of not what I expected, and like, what if I can't find a use for these different types of notebooks? And what I want to do in this video is I want to actually take you inside. The reason I kind of did this video a little bit later than when I received it is I have thought through and I've actually started to use each of these different types of notebooks in a specific way. And I want to show you the kind of the conclusion that I came to on how to use these notebooks. And I think they've actually become pretty useful. And in fact, some of these types, I might actually buy some extra ones and make a part of kind of my regular routine. So let's take a look at my desk, and I'll walk you through this drop, everything that's in it, and more specifically, how I've chosen to implement it. And then I'm hoping that in the comment section, you guys will share with me maybe if you receive this same drop, how you've been using these special use kind of versions of Field Notes, or just kind of look at what I'm doing here and think through how you might actually use it. I'm super curious as to your ideas on maybe some other ways that I can use these special use ones, because I am actually starting to kind of like some of the paradigms here. So anyway, without further ado, let's kind of jump down to my desk and we'll take a look at this drop. Okay, let's take a look. So this is the box. As you can see, Field Notes always does a great job. Everything's got just a wonderful design and thoughtful aesthetic to it. So, like I said, I've already dug into this. This dropped a while ago, but I really wanted to, because of my initial reaction, I wanted to take the notebooks and see if I can apply them to what I do on a day-to-day basis, which is a B2B marketing agency and consultant. At first, being a creative person, I felt a little constrained, but I found some interesting uses for these, and so I want to explore those with you. So this one, like I said, is a unique drop. I think this is my first one of the subscription that I just signed up for. It had a slipcase here. You actually have to make this. It's kind of clever. Once again, super clever. So you can put this little sucker together. It comes actually as a little flat piece, but yeah, sort of fun. And I will use it when I'm kind of working through these notebooks, and I'm going to show you kind of how I use them on a regular basis. But anyway, a neat little thing. I don't have a box to keep all these in like the true Field Note aficionados are, but so that was a nice little touch, fun to put together. Also in here, again, I don't know if this is just because this is my first of my subscription, but a band to put around the notebooks, which is kind of a neat little thing. Again, I don't know if I'll use it as much because I use my Lockbee primarily as kind of the holder of these things, so I don't know how much I'll use it, but it's kind of a cool concept. Ballpoint pens, not a big fan of ballpoints, but they have their functional use, so I'll probably keep it around, keep it in the pen holder. But I'm much more a fan of the rollerball, and then from time to time getting into the fountain pens when I'm thinking. This is what I've mentioned this in a couple other videos. This is kind of how I do my ideation. Anyway, inside of here, there's a sticker. I don't know if I use that or not. And then, again, they always do such a nice job of kind of explaining how thoughtful they are about the products that they build and the uniqueness. And again, I think this is a little bit of a unique approach for them to have single-purpose sort of things versus kind of the the neat part of the notebook being kind of the outside, and the inside becomes sort of yours to create on. So these having specific purposes, I think, is kind of interesting. All right, so let's, with all that in the unboxing, which you've probably seen on some other videos, let's kind of dig into what I ended up deciding to do with these. So there's 4 different notebooks in this drop, and there's essentially 3 different kind of approaches, I guess, for lack of a better word. I'm going to start with this one because this is the only one that I haven't actually used yet, and haven't necessarily found like my perfect use for it, but it's the 56-page ledger book, and it is just that, it's a ledger. And so I think this probably has the most flexibility to everything that they dropped in this particular edition. So it's kind of interesting that this is the last one I've thought or come up with a good idea of how to use it. But I do think there are some obvious use cases. In my context, I'm not one to kind of track my finances in this sort of way. I do it digitally. It's a little more complex than a straight ledger. So this doesn't apply, but that's an obvious use case for sure. I think where this would be the most interesting, if there was a particular habit that I was trying to form for the purpose of achieving some sort of goal, I think this would be a great way to sort of document the habit forming behavior that I wanted to kind of hold myself to. So for instance, if I had a fitness goal and I wanted to make sure I was doing 100 push-ups every day, I could track that. I could in this ledger, put a date, some sort of context around what I did, how I felt or whatever, and then the number of push-ups that I did. Another one that I think is obvious, and you're going to see I did it in a sort of a different way, but I'm working on a book. Or I want to create a writing habit. There is the concept of potentially keeping track of my word count. So I think this would work really well. Put my dates, or kind of use the Seinfeld approach of crossing things off, right? I put all my dates down here. I don't want to miss a day. If I do miss a day, I want to make sure I pick that habit back up quickly. Maybe some context of kind of what I was writing or what I accomplished, and then the word count. So I think there's some definite obvious use cases here, just nothing that kind of went into my immediate flow. However, and again, this is all in the context of B2B marketing, so that's kind of what my channel is about. I think it's interesting sometimes to go behind the scenes of some of my workflow and to understand some of the tools and things specifically that I use in order to do the work, and notebooks are one of them for sure. And the Pocket Notebook is increasingly becoming a part of this process. So the second one in here, and this is the one that I found kind of the immediate draw to, or kind of the most obvious to me what I wanted to do with these, and that's the 56-page logbook. And it is truly a logbook. A lot of the things that I've seen other people do, and again, these are different contexts, with this is to maybe log something that is a hobby or some experiences that you like to keep track of. And so the obvious ones I've heard is, potentially taking down wines that you drank and sort of characterizing them, rating them, maybe talking about the experience or journaling the experience here. Could be cigars, could be pipe tobacco, could be whiskey. So a lot of those type of things I think are obvious here. But in the context of B2B marketing, what I thought of immediately and has become useful is to, in this particular one, to track video ideas. So in explaining B2B marketing and giving you guys some valuable insights to things that are working and concepts that you should be doing, I'm constantly coming up with different video ideas or ways to teach and approach these different concepts. And so there's a couple of different ways to do that. I do have a Spark file. It's digital, but I also often in my notebook, and I think I've shown you this before, I will come up with some video ideas from time to time, and I'll kind of flip through here, and you'll see I'll have a video idea, and then I kind of characterize this. So, and the way that this happens is as I'm kind of going through and thinking of an idea, I pop into the book, I write it down and just kind of dump on that page that idea, and then I come back and maybe flesh it out more. What I decided to do with this that I found super helpful is in planning out a month of videos, I'm going through here and I'm putting down in an intentional way all of the videos that I need to record. And then again, this is more strategic. So not only are they just ideas, but I've actually done some research and see, what videos that people in my space have had good results with. So there's some intentionality around growth. There's also some intentionality around looking at the videos that I've done and to see the ones that you've found most valuable, or people like you in other audiences. And so this is an actual strategic listing of the videos that I think are important to shoot for this month. And so I started here, and then as I want to flesh those out, I can start from the index, and you can see I've already circled kind of the first 4 that I'm working on. And then I would, based on that index, I would build out the concept here. And so, what the video is, and the kind of the short starting, and this would be the seed for the script, right? And I could pull this into, then I pull it into Notion and write the full script and that sort of thing. So you can kind of see that I've done that. And then again, sort of intentionally, some of these are built out because they just resonated with me more, or I had more thoughts on them. And so I could quickly jump to whichever one was kind of resonating with me, or I had the idea of before or at the moment, and document that additional information. And then I sort of tagged some of these specifically that I wanted to work on. But from here, it puts all of those seeds in my head. And then this is a notebook that I'm going to carry with me. So it'll end up going inside of here. And so as sort of the detail strikes me, I can pull that out. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Lockbee here in a second. As I've started to kind of use these multiple sort of single-use notebooks, this has come into some constraints. So I want to talk about that a little bit at the end too. So the second one, and the second use case that I thought of, was the concept of a commonplace notebook. And so a commonplace notebook, if you're not familiar with that concept, is really taking an area, in this case B2B marketing, and thinking about all of the sort of specifics, details, elements to thoroughly understand and be knowledgeable about a particular thing. And a commonplace notebook often sort of fleshes out in a couple different ways. One, which is the way I did it, is to first sort of brain dump what I think are all the essential sort of topics and concepts that you need to be to have a firm grasp of in order to be sort of an expert at B2B marketing. And then from there, I wanted to build out sort of the deeper context around that. So what do I think if I were going to teach this, or in this case, I'm sort of trying to teach this, so I'm trying to capture all this because I'm already kind of in that expert space. But if you're not, this would be where you would capture, like, okay, I need to understand content marketing. Let me go through and do some research, pull in some books and make some notes, and grab some quotes around each of these specific concepts as I'm sort of building up my knowledge base. And the sort of hot takes from this research would then be condensed into here. Now, this is the one that I found kind of the quickest limitations, because commonplace notebooks normally sort of kind of can infinitely expand, right? But within this constraint, all I'm going to be able to do is sort of capture the most succinct part of that, and then from there I'll have to build out something more. So I don't know, this is a great way to kind of start your commonplace sort of approach or practice, but I think ultimately this is probably not the best context in order to build out a commonplace notebook. But it was fun to play with, and I'll continue to flush this out, and then I'll probably do something more specific with this, because this kind of ends up as kind of a second video ideas notebook, because because ultimately that's what I'll do with this. I'll teach this. It'll turn into articles, and it'll turn into newsletter articles, and it will turn into videos. So, however, this is something that I'm thinking about and working on, and so that also is going to go into here. And so this is the way I carry these notebooks around. And so, to Lockbee, maybe I'll probably do a second video where it's been a while since I've started to really incorporate these in my day-to-day, and so there's a couple of things that I have sort of different opinions on, or just things that I think that could be improved. For instance, this, I would love if this didn't have the zippers. The zipper's not terribly important. I don't use this like a wallet, so there's no security need here. But I'm starting to want to carry multiple of these small notebooks in here, so I wish that it had no zipper like this, so that I could put more in it, and it had the elastics so I could put more notebooks. So I almost feel like something closer to this, but at the pocket level. And I think Lockbee is working on something like that, but I would love to mature this. But in the meantime, I still love it. And so even with it's not perfect, it still becomes the thing that I use. So I'm still completely devoted to this. So those are the two books that I'm carrying around and how I'm using that. So the third kind of concept of the 4 notebooks is this 56-week date book. So the obvious use case for this, of course, is to just do a calendar, right? And so that's kind of the context here. So you have the days of the week. You can put in your own date. I do like the fact that you can kind of start whenever, right? So that was super clever. That's the problem with kind of like a pocket calendar always is like you never get it at the first of the year. So like you kind of end up in a weird spot in here. This one you can start whenever and you can build it out. So again, I sort of thought of this in a slightly different context or approach. And this I'm using, I've always wanted to write a second book. The problem I always have with writing books is it's just such a long process. So I think I'm spoiled a little bit by my practice of being an agency owner for 20 plus years. So most of my activity and work is built around the concept of campaigns, right? And so I'm building a campaign. There's a lot of work. It's sort of project. You put the campaign in motion. You're looking at the metrics and you're getting sort of a quick, fast response and feedback on those, and you're making adjustments. And even though you're probably sustaining something for a long period of time, it's essentially building a system and then optimizing that system. But when you're writing a book, you're actually doing something new every single time you sit down to contribute to the work that becomes the book. And so that's been a really hard habit for me to build. So what I decided to do here, and I've got a lot of the pieces, I've got a lot of the research done. I've got like thousands of pages of copy that are on the topics that will go into this book. And so what I thought might be useful is to, again, create a notebook that becomes a little bit of that roadmap. And I intentionally only did a couple of weeks so that I could recalibrate at the end of the couple of weeks if I need to kind of adjust these, but I can keep track of, and this one stays on my desk. Every single day I can say, okay, this is specifically what I need to do. And this is all broken down in Google Docs as individual sort of components. So I can just pull up that Google Doc and I can work against it whatever time I have. And then ultimately I'm hoping to accomplish, and I just, again, thought about 2 weeks worth of work, about how much time I have given it, and tried to break that down into sort of chunks that I can accomplish. So we'll see how I did in those first couple of weeks. And this will be kind of my book writing notebook to give me a guide for that particular journey. So those are the 4 different notebooks. All right, so hopefully that's giving you some ideas on how to use these different notebooks in this kind of special purpose drop of field notes this month. Would love to get into a discussion with you in the comments about how you would potentially use these type of sort of dedicated purpose notebooks. And if you got this drop, I would love to hear how you're using those. Again, love to spark a little bit of a conversation in the context of how you use pocket notebooks or maybe even field notes specifically for B2B marketing or whatever your job is. So often we look at these these pocket notebooks and we talk about sort of these more personal uses of them, I'd love to hear how you use these in the context of your actual work. Do me a favor and like and subscribe, and I hope to see you on the next video.